Hello guys, today I'm going to show you how to install the hot new VPN client or the server on the internet, which is WireGuard, on your Unraid server. So basically a VPN server is something which you can use to access your home server or the home network remotely very easily as a private connection without any other interference from or security issues from other people inside the internet. So to do that, we are going to use the WireGuard application on our Unraid server. So first you need to go to the community apps tab, search for WireGuard, and here you can see the Dynamics WireGuard plugin and click install on that. So the plugin is installed, click done. Now go to settings, and under settings you should be able to see something called network services, and under that you should be able to see something called VPN manager. Click on VPN manager, and here you can see some informations that we need to fill. So for the local name, it's optional, you don't need to enter anything. For the local endpoint, you need to enter a domain name or an IP address. So if I search for what is my IP, as you can see here, you see an IP address which is same as the one which I see here. So this is the public IP address of my current internet connection, but the problem is this public IP address is dynamic. So dynamic IP addresses changed randomly, and whenever the IP address changes, I cannot access the server. So it's a problem. So there are two solutions. One is getting a public static IP address from your ISP. So it must be some kind of expensive because you need to purchase it from the ISP. So the free solution is using a DDNS service. So what a DDNS service does is we will reserve a domain name which is given to us free of charge. So for that domain name, what the DDNS service does is whenever the public IP address changes, the DDNS service will detect the change and it will assign the public IP address for that domain name that we just reserved from that provider. So basically you should be able to access your server without any problems because you are using a domain name instead of an IP address, and that IP address, if it changes randomly, the service will update it immediately, so without any problem. So I am using a service already and I have already configured that on my network, on my router. So if you don't know how to configure a DNS service on your home router for this solution or for any other solutions, I will have a link in the description or on the top right corner for you to check it out. So here I'm going to use the domain name titan dash unraid.ddns.net. So whenever the public IP address changed, this domain name will be updated. So the port number, we will leave it as it is because it's the default one. And after applying those settings, click apply. Now what we need to create is we need to create a user to access from the external network. So click add peer. Under that, give a peer name. In my case, I will give it as KP. And normally for most of the users that are going to use this service, they need to access their LAN network and their server from the remote network. So for that solution, we need to select remote tunneled access. So there are some other options as well. I will have a diagram on the screen right about now. You can pause the video and check what solution you need in your case and select the specific one. But what I think is most of us need is the remote tunneled access, where we can access our home network and the server without any problems. So in my case, I'm just going to select remote tunneled access. Afterwards, we need to give a private and a public key. So generate the key pair. Okay, no problem in that. For the pre-shared key, you can give whatever you want, but it's not secured because you will get something which is about 8 characters or 10 characters, and it might be something very easy to for a hacker or somebody to guess. and best thing is to generate one. So it's much more complicated. So after doing that, click apply, and as you can see, the user is now created and without any problem. Now what we need to do is we need to download the config file for the user for us to use when we are going to connect to the VPN server. So click the I on the right side, which is named as view peer config. Click it, and inside that you should be able to see the configuration file. So the QR code is used for the mobile app and the keys are used for the desktop app. So if you are using the mobile app, it's much more easier if you're to scan the QR code and add the configuration, because sometimes the configuration file option might not work. For the desktop, definitely download the file and use that way to connect or configure the client application on your Windows or Linux PC. So in my case, I'm going to use the Windows PC to connect for this example. So I'm going to download this. Okay, it's downloaded. I'm going to close this one. Now before we can use this config file, we need to have the client application. So to get the client application, we need to install WireGuard client. So to install WireGuard client, we need to go to WireGuard website. So inside you should be able to see something called installation. In that, click the Windows installation if you are using the Windows operating system. If not, you have the other options as well. Select the suitable one for you. So in my case, I'm downloading the Windows installation. I have already done it. So after the installation is done, you should be able to see something like this on your Windows PC or something similar on the other operating systems. If it is done, now we should be able to use this application and use the config file which we just downloaded to connect to our VPN server. But there will be a problem because we are inside our network. So if you are trying to access a VPN server, it's much more useful if you are outside of the network. So the problem is when we are outside of the network, you can't access the home network very easily. So that's why we get a public IP address and those dynamic DNS options. So for them to work properly together, you need to log into your router and port forward. Without doing that, you should not be able to access the VPN server. But after doing it, definitely you should be able to access the VPN server. So first you need to log in. So I am already logged into my router. So under your settings, you should be able to see something called virtual servers or port forwarding. So it should be named one of them. In my case, I have both of them. So click add and give the internal IP address of your WireGuard server, or in your case or my case, it should be your Unraid server. And for the internal and external port, it should be the port number which you just saw while you are configuring the WireGuard server, which is 51820. Copy that port, paste it for the internal and external. And for the protocol, select UDP and click OK. Now the port forward is done. Now we should be able to access our VPN server from anywhere in the world without any problem. So to do that, I am going to disconnect my PC, which is this one, from this local network, and I'm going to connect it to my mobile hotspot, which is a separate network, and let's try to access our VPN server. So before doing that, remember this is the public IP address we see. I will open this one as well. So this is the public IP address, but after I connect to my mobile network, this should change. So let's close, or let's just keep them open. Let's just close everything else. I'm going to minimize. Okay, I'm going to disable my network card, and I have connected to my Wi-Fi or Manchester, which is my mobile network, and let's just open the browser again and let's refresh this. And as you can see here, now we are getting an IPv6 IP address as well as an IPv4 IP address, but the difference is this IP address is different from the other one which we just saw before. So which means we are on a different network. We can try that by trying to accessing our server and the router. So as you can see, I can't access any of them now, which means we are on a separate network, and which simulates something like on a remote network when we try to access our server where we can't access it. And the solution, we implemented it just now. So just open the WireGuard client and click import. So previously you downloaded the config file. Click the downloaded config file, click open, and the import file should be added onto the WireGuard client. And if it is working correctly, click activate, and it's activated, no problem. Now if we refresh this, we can access the Unraid server. If we refresh our router, we can access the router as well. And if we refresh the what is my IP page, you see the same IP address as before. That is because what a VPN does is it will create a private tunnel between your current connection and your home connection, and which will provide you internet from your home network. So you are using your mobile network or the other network to access your VPN, but instead of using the public IP address your local phone to access internet, it will use the public IP address of your destination, or in this case your home network. So that is why we are able to access our home server and home local network and any other network inside your home network. So that is WireGuard, and it's a easy solution. And for most of the people who are running OpenVPN, this is a best solution, and it is much more easier, and it's not so complicated. And I hope this video is very helpful to anyone who's struggling with OpenVPN or any other VPN server, and I hope this is very helpful. So if there are any problems, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video. So thank you and have a nice day. Subscribe my channel. See you later.